So about a week ago, I did a little bit of sparring in Flint Town. And, to be honest, I'm not really much of a boxer, but I was actually really happy with my performance here. I think this is only my third time actually boxing a boxer. And you can tell he's got a little bit more experience than me, but he's still pretty close to my level, so it makes a pretty good sparring match. But I do appreciate him not knocking my head off, because in boxing culture, they really swing for the fences. And it's nice sparring someone in a very technical way, but where they'll tag you if you make a mistake and you made a mistake, so you can actually learn from it. It's also very hard to find good heavyweights to spar with that are at similar skill level, because there's just not a lot of heavyweights out there, and I don't get a lot of experience sparring people that aren't half my size. So it's nice seeing that I'm able to hold my performance against somebody who's a bit bigger. Now, I am a little bit awkward because boxing really isn't my sport, and the footwork is different. And, I find myself where my legs will actually lag behind because I like to put a lot more weight on that back foot so I can kick with my front leg. But, of course, you can't do that in the context of boxing, and having that back leg lag behind actually makes it hard to follow through with punches. I like to use a guard that's very similar to a Philly shell, but it's not exactly like a Philly shell. What I like to do is extend my lead arm forward, and I can use that to parry shots and really set my reach, while at the same time having that backhand to defend in case they get past the lead hand. And I find that this allows me to drop that lead hand and punch from weird angles while not necessarily sacrificing my defense. I was really happy with my performance on defense because I'm not a boxer, and typically in kickboxing or MMA, you don't necessarily want to use a lot of head movement because you can duck right into a kick. So for the little amount of head movement I've been practicing, I'm very satisfied with how well I'm performing, given that this is the first time I've sparred since really working on head movement, and it just seemed to come naturally, so I was really happy with that. I also seem to have really good defense when it comes to bringing those hands up and parrying, or even bringing up a high guard if I need to. The high guard and shelling up is not my favorite defense, but sometimes you have to do it. And that's one reason I like that sort of modified Philly shell, because I can bring those hands up really quickly if I need to. With that said, there are definitely some things I need to work on. One of them is letting my hands fly, because I'm a little bit defensive and apprehensive to throw a punch. It's not that I'm necessarily afraid to get hit. It's more that I'm afraid to hit my partner. I'm afraid to actually just unload, because I'm a nice guy. I don't want to hurt people. And sometimes I got to get past that psychological barrier of just letting my punches fly. But the other issue comes from that kickboxing background where like I said, I put too much weight on that back leg, and having somewhat of a sideways stance sometimes makes it hard to throw the cross. I really just need to get practice letting that cross fly and using my weight and shifting off of those legs a little bit more, so I'm not leaning into my punches, because I notice I lean in a bit too much to try and stretch and reach my opponent rather than throwing my whole body into it. Now here I notice I get him on the ropes, but I kind of back off and let him escape. And what I really should have done is framed up on him. And I try to frame, but I did it a little bit too late. And I really should have framed up on him and kept the pressure coming in. But instead I backed off and I let him escape. And this really comes from my style being a counter puncher. I'm so used to moving backwards, moving away from my opponent, and then countering. And I'm still kind of getting in that habit of putting on the pressure. And it's a little foreign to me. So it's something I really need to work on. My biggest issue, though, is still cardio. As you can see, I slow down as the round goes on. I like to move a lot, and it uses up a lot of energy, and I really need to work on my anaerobic cardio. I end up having to throw up after damn near every round, and it's just something I have to work through.